Whiskey Hobbit here, and today I'm reviewing Blantons Straight from the Barrel. So, Blantons Straight from the Barrel is basically a limited edition single barrel version of Blantons. Blantons is one of the most popular bourbons you can find, bar maybe Pappy, which obviously is popular but no one ever sees it. And maybe Jack Daniels, because everyone knows Jack Daniels, even though it's not really bourbon and it's kind of horrible. But basically, Blantons has become quite a popular brand. I'd say quite popular, incredibly popular, I think would probably be a better way of describing it. I don't really know why. It is really good. I like it. I think it's a really good bourbon. When I first tried it a couple of years ago, I thought, yeah, that's really nice. And then trying it recently, I just thought, it's all right. It's very good if you like that style of bourbon, which is quite intense, hot, and woody. Although, to be fair, the Blanton's Gold, I think, is actually probably better than some of the straight from the barrels. Blanton's Gold, if you haven't tried it, is basically a UK/European exclusive bourbon, and Americans go crazy for it because they can't get it, and Blanton freaks think, oh, it must be good. And it is. It is good. It is good. I don't know why it's a UK exclusive. It's a bit strange, but there you go. Or European. I think it's European. But yeah, at the very least, you can't get it in the States. This, however, so this is... Blantons basically releases single barrel versions, or straight from the barrel as they call it, on a semi-regular basis. You can pretty much find them all year round. But when I say find them, they will come and then immediately go out the door because people are always looking for them. They're incredibly popular. Unfortunately, because it does mean it makes it difficult to find just to drink, and they often will just end up on auction sites. I work for an auction site, so I see them come in quite regularly. It's Blanton's, Pappy, and basically anything. That's pretty much the two that you get the majority of in auctions that kind of somewhat disappoint you, because at the same time it's like, yeah, I get it, but there is this element of they're just almost being produced to be sold. Although, to be fair, Blanton's still isn't that crazy at auction at the moment. See how it goes. Anyway, let's try a little bit. Now, I must apologise for not being here doing more reviews. I just have been very busy with my new job. I now work for a whiskey auction company, and it's quite full on, and I don't really get a lot of free time, and the free time I have, I kind of want to spend with my family. But yeah, it's just been difficult, and I haven't really felt like doing a whiskey review for quite a while. But now I do, and I thought, let's try something different and start it off with a Blanton Straight from the Barrel. So this, if you want to know, is Blanton Straight from the Barrel, dumped in 2017, so July the 12th, 2017, and from barrel number 883 in Warehouse H on Rick number 14. And they're always bottled, these ones are always bottled at cask strength. I believe it's cask strength. 60, I mean, it would be bizarre if it wasn't, because they're always really strange numbers. So this is 63.65% alcohol. Why would you bother? Although, to be fair, no, it's still bizarre, because it would be, yeah, it's 127.3 proof. Why would you bother? Yeah, no, that's cask strength. So there we go. So anyway, on the nose, sorry, I probably mentioned, you can find this occasionally in some shops, but it does come and go very quickly, and it can be very pricey. It's normally about 100-ish, £120, I think. Because when I bought this, I bought it for about £55 because it was on offer from Master of Malt, and I just thought, I'll get that. But since then, it's started to become a lot more of a popular dram, and people have started to understand its popularity in the States. So I've now decided, I know, I'll just buy this, and obviously now there's a lot more flippers involved in terms of buying and selling. So a lot of it never actually is bought then drunk. It's normally bought then kept then sold or immediately sold. It's annoying, but it's all part of my job. So anyway, on the nose, see, this is the thing. It's kind of soft, but I know it's not going to taste soft. It's a soft nose, very subtle and gentle, and a little bit ginger spicy kind of sweetness. When I say a little bit of sweetness, there's a lot of sweet spice. That's how I describe it. Sweet spice in a glass. Oh, a bit sour. So the nose isn't that big. Palate is very strong. That's going to need a lot of water. And again, quite orangey. Lemony, actually, I would say. It's more lemony than orange. Oh, that is weird. Don't know how I feel about that. Because it's not as good as I remember at all. I remember being all right, good. Yeah, trying that neat. Oh, that is left a paint thinnery kind of. I mean, it's probably just the alcohol, but it is just very intense. But I think that kind of varnishy kind of sweetness comes through. I say varnish sweetness, you know what I mean. See, with water, it does open up quite a bit. Smells a little bit more grapey and fruity and lemony. The lemon is more obvious, but it's now kind of a nice, almost like lemon-based cocktail. I don't know what that would be. Like a penicillin, I think. But yeah, it does smell a lot better. You get a little bit more like sweet barley, that kind of. Okay. Dark chocolate. And still lemony dark chocolate with a bit of oak. I quite like that. That's not as bad. Yeah, with water, it really calms it down and makes it a much more palatable dram. Without water, don't bother. If you genuinely think it tastes fine without it, do whatever you want. But I think you're missing out on this dram if you don't add water because, I mean, firstly, it's over 60%. You're probably going to want to add water unless you're strange. I mean, some people don't like adding water. I personally generally won't add water unless I particularly feel like it needs it. I won't preemptively add water to anything because sometimes you just kind of have got to be in the right. You kind of got to gauge how much water you want to add to your whiskey. And with this one, I wanted to add quite a lot, and I think it's held its own even with all that water in there. I will say that it's a nice dram. I don't think it deserves anywhere near the amount of hype it gets. It's a really strange one. I think if you're really into bourbon and the bourbon whiskey scene and you love every type of bourbon you've ever tried, this will probably be an amazing bourbon for you. For me, bourbon is nice, but it's never really kind of got that level of quality or maturity or complexity that Scotch does, which is why I love Scotch so much, because there's always so many different layers. Whereas with bourbon, you're always just getting a fresh oak cask and young whiskey, predominantly young whiskey. That's pretty much it. What else can they do? It's made from corn. It's normally not aged for very long, and it's all right. It's one of those things where I think if it's what you like, then that's fine. It just seems that like there's so much more of a depth of flavour and character that you get from Scotch and whiskey in general that you can't get from bourbon. One of the main reasons being that oak type you have to use has to be fresh oak. It has to be. If they use anything that has held a spirit before or any kind of liquid before, it's not called bourbon. It's basically called American whiskey, I think, or American. Are they allowed to call it? I think they can call it whiskey, just not bourbon or not or rye. It's got to be fresh oak for those particular purposes. Even though from what I've tried, when bourbon has been matured in, or American whiskey has been matured in casks that previously held something else, like another bourbon or something, then you do get quite a lovely soft sweetness to it, and it's really good. It's completely different to bourbon, but it is really nice, and I do think it could be something they could look into doing in the future. I think distilleries who maybe see that as an avenue could do really well, because one of the biggest pulls in Scotch whiskey is what kind of casks you're using. Are you using a heavily sherry cask? If you are, you're probably going to sell out in seconds. Are you using, a weird wine cask that particularly appeals to people who are really into their wine? It kind of works like that. So you get people liking the idea of it before they've even tasted it. And then once they taste it, they're getting that sort of hints or flavours of the previous spirit or liquid, whatever was in there. The one thing I will say is I'm not sure about beer casks. I haven't tried. Actually, no, I have tried. Sorry. Chichibu has done some excellent beer cask whiskies. I'm thinking of I think it's an IPA cask as well as a stout cask, and they were both very good. But people like Glenfiddich, they come along and do an IPA cask, and it's pretty crap, to be honest, because it's Glenfiddich, and I'm sure there's lovely Glenfiddichs out there, but it is Glenfiddich, and they literally have pretty much said they kind of chose the softest, most light IPA they could find, because they didn't really want to take away from the Glenfiddich taste, which I understand, but then the point that people buy it for is slightly dulled, if you see what I mean. A good single malt that has been matured in a good cask should complement each other. This shouldn't be, well, we've got to make this really weak so that a single malt can shine, or let's not bother about the single malt, let's just have loads of sherry. It should be a nice marriage of the two. Anyway, that's a completely different point for a different video, because this hasn't been... My point is, this is fresh oak, and it's lovely, but I don't know. I think a Blantons like matured in an ex-sherry cask or sherry, that'd be amazing. Be weird, but quite cool and very sweet. But yeah. Yeah, you have to add water to that. It really doesn't taste good without it. It's just burn. And if you genuinely believe that it tastes good without it, that's lovely for you. But I think you're slightly deluded. Anyway, also for any people who are particularly weird about Blantons, each Blantons bottle will have a little letter just at the bottom left corner of the horse. So this is bottle with an L, and it spells out Blantons if you find them all, sort of thing. which is kind of cool. But it's an irritating, to me, a slightly irritating cork stopper. Just have a bog standard one. It's cool. I think it suits the bottle and the shape and the thing and everything about it. But it's just a bit wanky, isn't it? It's a bit shit. Anyway, I will be back at some point, and I'm going to try and review God knows what. I've got all sorts of things I should really start clearing out and drinking. So yeah, wait for that. And until next. Oh, score for this. I'm going to give this a 72. It's just young. It's not particularly complex. It's not particularly interesting. It's just all right. There you go. Anyway, until next time.